Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, and today we're gonna discuss about the Saxon Invasion. And before we start to the main topic, let me introduce myself. My name is Sani Marcela. My name is Sani Marcela, and there's my partner also.
Okay, my name is Risuci Fitriani.
Yes, and we're from group 2. And now we're gonna explain about the Saxon invasion, like how they get into the Britain or like where they came from or how about the religion and others. So we're gonna heading to the first topic. Uh, okay, now there's a list about what we'll discuss today. The first one is the invaders. The second one is government and society. The third one is Christianity, the partnership of church and state. The next one is the Vikings. And the last one is who should be king. Now, oh yeah. This presentation is also arranged by me, Sani Marcela, and Sri Suci Fitriani, of course. Now we're heading to the first topic, which is the invaders. So the wealth of Britain by the 4th century, the result of its mild climate and centuries of peace, was attention to the greedy. At first, the Germanic tribes only raided Britain, but after the 430 AD, they began to settle. And how do we know about this event? So we know this event like true story is from the English monk named Bede, who lives 300 years later, and his book named Ecclesiastical History of English People was published at 731 AD, has been proved generally correct by archaeological evidence. The invaders came from 3 powerful Germanic tribes. The first one is the Saxons, and the second one is Angles, and the third one is Jutes. The Anglo-Saxon migration gave the larger part of Britain its new name, like we also know now as England, which means the land of the Angles. And next slide is the British South fought the raiders and settlers from Germany as well as they could. However, during the next 100 years, they were slowly pushed westwards until by 570, they were forced west to the Gloucester. And here you can see also the map of the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes were invading the Britain. And Wales is the mountains in the far west, which the Saxon called Wales or Wales. The meaning is the land of the foreigners. The Anglo-Saxon established a number of kingdoms, and some of which still exist in county or regional names to this day. For example, is Essex or East Saxons, Sussex or South Saxons, Wessex or West Saxons, Middlesex, probably a kingdom of Middle Saxon, and East Anglia, which is East Angles. And in the north, other Celts were driven into the lowlands of the country, which became known as Scotland. By the middle of the 7th century, the 3 largest kingdoms, those of Northumbria, Mercia, and Wessex, were the most powerful kingdoms at that time. And the next slides, we had King Offa, which his pictures is at the coins at the time. King Offa of Mercia claimed kingship of the English. He was powerful enough to employ thousands of men to build a huge dike or earth wall, the length of the Welsh border to keep out the troublesome Celts. The power of Mercia didn't survive after King Offa's death. At that time, a king's power depended on the person of loyalty of his followers. But most of people still believe, as the Celts had done before, that a man's first duty was to his own family, like giving them money and anything. But things changing. The Saxon kings began to replace loyalty to family with loyalty to Lord and the king. Okay, the second topic is about their government and society. The Saxon created institutions which made the English state strong for like the next 500 years. One of these institutions was the King's Council, called the Witan. The Witan probably grew out of informal group of senior warriors and churchmen to whom kings like Ova had turned for advice or support on difficult matters. The Witan established a system which remained an important part of the king's method of government. Even today, the king or queen has a privy council, a group of advisors on the affairs of state. And next slide is the Saxons divided the land, like the big land on Britain, into new administrative areas based on shires or counties. Over each shire was appointed by a sheriff, like the king's local administrator. I think it's the same as like local police. In time, his name became shortened to sheriff. Yes, the sheriff that we know right now. And how about their agriculture? Anglo-Saxon technology changed the shape of English agriculture. The Celts had kept small square fields, which were well suited to light plough. They used drawn either by an animal or two people, so they only have the square fields, like very small for each family. And the Anglo-Saxon introduced a far heavier plough, which was better able to plough in long straight lines across the field. It was particularly useful for cultivating heavier soils, but it required 6 or 8 oxen to put it, and it was difficult to turn. Different from the light plow. The light plow is easily to turn at the corner, but the heavier plow is difficult to turn at the corner. The field was divided into 2 or 3 very large fields. So they have like these fields, and they divided into 2 or 3. These were then divided again into long thin strips. So they gave the land to some of family, and the family has like a long thin strip again. One of these fields would be used for planting spring crops, and the other side for autumn crops. The third area would be left to rest for a year, and with the other areas after harvest, like after they harvest the spring crops and autumn crops, it would be used as common land for animals to feed on. And the next slide is gonna be presented by my partner, Sri Suci.
Okay, then the fire in each district was a matter of large house. This was a simple building where local villagers came to pay taxes, where justice was administered, and where men met together to join the Anglo-Saxon army. The fire and Christianity, the partnership and state. We don't know how or when Christianity first reached Britain, but it must have been long before Christianity was kept by the Roman Emperor Constantine in the early 4th century AD. In the first 100 years of Roman rule, Christianity became established across Britain, both in Roman-controlled areas and beyond. Christianity continued to spread until it brought an end to paganism. In 597, Pope Gregory the Great sent a monk, Augustine, to establish Christianity in England. He went to Canterbury, the capital of the King of Kent. Okay, he went to Canterbury, the capital of the King of Kent. Augustine became the first Archbishop of Canterbury in 601. He was very successful. It was the Celtic Church which brought Christianity to the ordinary people of Britain. Okay, the next so slide.
Okay.
And the two Christian churches, Celtic and Roman, could hardly have been more different in character. One was most interested in the hearts of ordinary people. The other was interested in authority and organization. And then the competition between the Celtic and Roman churches reached a crisis because they disagreed over the date of Easter. England had become Christian very quickly. By 660, only Sussex and the Isle of Wight had not accepted the new faith. 20 years later, English teachers returned to the lands from which the Anglo-Saxons had come, bringing Christianity to much of Germany. Saxon kings helped the church to grow, but the church also increased the power of kings. Bishops gave kings their support, which made it harder for royal power to be questioned. Um, there are other ways in which the church increased the power of England. The church founded Bay, for example, Westminster, a place for learning and education. The king who made the most use of the church was Alfred, the Great King, who ruled Wessex from 871 until 899 AD. He used the literate men of the church to build the legal system, to educate people and write important things down. And the Anglo-Saxon kings also preferred to the Roman Church to the Celtic Church for economic reasons, and many bishops and monks came from Frankish lands, where they were eventually fired by the English rules, and most of these bishops or monks came from churches or monasteries along trade routes, making their contact with Europeans increasingly frequent. And then things that they exported and imported. The next is the Vikings. Towards the end of the 8th century, new raiders were summoned by Britain's world. These were the Vikings, a word which probably means either pirates of the people of the sea in fact. And they came from Norway and Denmark. They only raided at first. They burned churches and monasteries along the east, north, and west coast of Britain and Ireland. In 865, the Vikings unified England, and the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms couldn't hold them back. This time they come to conquer and settle down in 875 AD. Only King of Alfred in the west of Wessex stood his ground against the Vikings. After several serious defeats, Alfred won the battle in AD 878, and a years later he captured London. Viking rule was recognized in the west and north of England. It was called the Danelaw, and during his struggle against the Danes, He had built walled settlements to keep them out. They were called burghs. Who shall be king by 915. England seemed rich and peaceful again after the troubles of the Viking invasion. But soon afterwards, the Danish Vikings started raiding westwards. The Saxon king, Ethelred, decided to pay the Vikings to stay away. To find the money, he set a tax on all his people called Danskeld or Danish money. Okay, in the next slide, when Erhelred died, he not Arsenic, the leader of the Danish Viking, controlled much of England. He became king for the simple reason that the royal council, the Witan, and everyone else feared disorder. Rule by a Danish king was far better than rule by no one at all. Sina died in 1035, and his son died shortly after in 1040. The widow chose Edward, one of Saxon Erhard's sons, to be king. Edward, known as the Confessor, was more interested in the court than in kingship. Court building had been going on for over a century, and he encouraged it by the time Edward died. There was a court in almost every village. Okay. Um, Edward only lived until 1066 when he died without an obvious heir. The question of who should follow him as king was one of the most important in English history. Edward had brought many Normans to his English court from France. These Normans were not liked by the more powerful Saxon nobles, particularly by the most powerful family of Wessex, the Godwin's sons. It was Godwin's son, Harold, whom the Arvitine chose to be the next king of England. Harold had already shown his bravery and ability. He had no royal blood, but he seemed a good choice for the throne of England. Harold's right to the English throne was challenged by Duke William of Normandy. William had two claims to the English throne. In the first, the King Edward had promised it to him, and the second, that the Harold who had visited William in 1064 or 1065 have promised William that he, Harold, would not try to take the throne from himself. Harold was faced by two dangers, one in the south and one in the north. The Danish Vikings had not given up their claim to the English throne. In 1066, Harold had marched north into Yorkshire to defeat the Danes. Harold decided not to wait for the whole Saxon army to fire together because William's army was small. However, the Norman soldiers were better armed, better organized, and were mounted on horse. If he had waited, Harold might have won, but, but he was defeated and killed in battle near Hastings. Williams marched to London, which quickly gave in when he began to burn villages outside the city. He was crowned King of England of Edward's new Church of Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day, year 1066. A new period had begun.
Okay, I think that's all from me. You guys can drop your question below at the LMS later. Thank you for listening and see ya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.